welcome you to Uptown Charlotte. We are at the Westin Hotel for the second day of the 2019 ACC football kickoff. It is the Coastal Division today, and we now are joined in the room by the University of Miami. We will have on stage with us first KJ Osborne. We'll then rotate to Shaq Quarterman before we spend a little bit of time with the head coach, Manny Diaz. For our student athletes, KJ, as you start to approach the podium, we do have microphones throughout the room, so we will ask the folks that are asking the question to identify themselves and the agency that they are with, and we'll see how the next 6 or 7 minutes go with KJ. So our first question, KJ, will come to your right in the first row, right in the center there.
KJ, Dan Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. Just what you could say about, your overall thoughts on Manny Diaz. He had left momentarily and came back to Miami, and just your thoughts on his return and ultimately leading this team.
First and foremost, it's an honor to be here. Second off, but I love Coach. From the moment I figured out that he was going to be the head coach, at my time, it was a kind of in-between period. I had talked to the former staff, and I didn't really know who he was, but immediately when I found out he was having the press conference, I was actually packing up. I was leaving Buffalo, and I was watching it as I was packing up, and I sat down and I watched it, and just his energy, his vibe, what his vision was for the program, what he wanted to do, the new Miami, bringing some of that, that old school Miami back, putting us back on, where we need to be. A great guy from Miami, easy to speak to, a tremendous person, tremendous coach, father, really a great guy. So I'm really happy with the decision I made, and he's a really great guy.
KJ, stay on the right side. We're going to go about fifth row.
Ewan McCreath, Herb FM Sports Radio. KJ, how do you like Miami? How's the transition going for you? And I also wanted to ask you about your return game. How do you practice that in the offseason, and how much pride do you take in that part of your game?
Right. First, I love Miami. When people ask me how is Miami, I tell them Miami is everything you think it is. Like everything you think it is. It's amazing. And one of the things, there's so many connections to make. Just even football, it's a tremendous school. I'm going to get my master's degree in criminal justice. The connections I've been making with people in the city, the alumni, meeting new people, it's really good. So I really, like I said, I really am proud of the decision I made. I feel like I prayed on it. I made the right choice. But I love it. I love it. I'm a Michigan guy. Grew up in Michigan. I transferred down to IMG, and I tried to stay in Florida for college. I ended up going to Buffalo, but so it was nice getting back to Florida. I'm from Michigan, but I don't really like the snow that much. But secondly, the return game, I feel like that's really important. At first, I was kind of nervous because like when I was a third, my redshirt freshman or sophomore year, I was a third string punt returner, and I was a second string outside receiver in like the third slot behind two seniors. So when you think about it, in a game, you don't think two punt returners are going to go down in one game. And in practice, when you get punt reps, it's cool because if you drop it, God forbid, it's cool because you're in practice. But the game is live bullets, and the two seniors went down, and it was my turn. And I was standing back there at Western Michigan, just hoping I would get a good, nice, decent kick that I was able to return. And my first punt, I went pretty far, and I was able to, get back and track it. And then as time went on, I just got really comfortable, and you start gaining confidence, and you catching it with guys close to you, and you realize the importance of it. Stealing the first down or two when the return game, and as you get older, you get to learn the field position and the percentages of your chances of score, like when you're getting the offense of the ball and things like that. So I take a lot of pride in it, practicing in the off season, always just fundamentals, because in the game it's gonna happen fast. So in practice you gotta practice, like I said, the fundamentals. But I think it's very important. Kick return, punt return. My favorite is punt return. But I think it's also really fun, and it brings you an asset. You're not just a receiver, at the next level. An example I got, you go, say, at the time, you go to the Cowboys, you're not going to be playing over Des Bryant, you know, when he was there, you know, so you're going to have to bring something else to the table, and I feel like that's what I try to tell a lot of, you know, some of my younger teammates. You know, special teams is very important. People make careers off special teams, you know, and I learned that at a young age, you know, even at IMG, my special teams coach, and he told us, but special teams is very, very important, not just punt return, kickoff, punt, you know, whether it's onside, anything you do, but that's a very important part of the game.
KJ, your next question back to Dan, first row to your right.
KJ, two-part, you talked about coming from Buffalo. Just what felt right about Miami and returning not only to the state of Florida, but going to Miami specifically, just what felt right about leaving Buffalo and going there as a grad transfer? And then secondly, your thoughts on quarterback Tate Martell. As you come in, so did he.
All right. First, like I said, I prayed about it. It was a lot of prayer. But I tell people, you know, when you go to college, you don't think you're going to transfer. Obviously, you know, to really think about it, that you really going to, I remember I was sitting in my room, I'm really going to pack up my stuff, I'm really going to, you know, leave my teammates, and I've been here for 4 years, things like that. It's not, you know, the, I guess, ideal situation, but, you know, it happened, and like I said, when I was in the process of it, it was a coaching change, so I talked to Coach Dugans, who's now at Florida State. You know, I really liked him, really good guy. He was a college teammate of my high school receiver coach and role model, E.G. Green, or Ernie Green, who played at Florida State. And they had a good relationship, and I spoke to him, and, you know, good guy and things like that. Also Scott Patchett, who, you know, a defensive end, I played with him in high school. Tyree St. Louis, who just graduated, I played with him in high school. So I was able to speak to them, you know, just about the program and things like that. So, you know, when it was a coaching change, I ended up talking to Coach Cooney, who's our director of recruiting, and I really loved him. Really good guy. You know, I felt very comfortable talking to him, and I feel like he really sold it for me, as well as Coach Diaz. And I just seen immediately, just like the impact of everything that Coach Diaz was doing. They have my master's program, which is very important to me, and then, you know, just the off the field, the alumni, the brotherhood that Miami has. I believe is second to none. So I think that was really good for me, and it's been, you know, everything that has lived up to all the hype. Your second question about Tate. I met Tate when he first came. He's a very smart guy, and that's one thing I was very impressed with. Like when I first met him, very, very smart. You know, you sit down and you talk to him, and, you know, he'll draw it out for you just like a coach. Like, you know, he knows things, and when defense is moving and things like that. He's very athletic, works really hard. So yeah, he's a really good guy. You know, he's a really good guy from a big city. So, you know, he likes Miami. So all the, you know, him and Brevin talk about it a lot. They can relate to it because they come from Las Vegas. So, you know, they can adapt to, you know, kind of that lifestyle, you know, stuff like that. So he kind of showed me the ropes a little bit, like being like in a big city. But really good guy.
KJ, thanks for the time. You can switch positions now with Shaq. We'll bring Mr. Quarterman up here and spend a few minutes with him. Well done for a first-timer. Yes, sir. Nice job. Shaq Quarterman with us for the next few minutes. Shaq, your first question, first row, right side.
Shaq, just what you can say about the return of, you know, this linebacker core having so much experience, just what you can say about that, having the head coach be the former defensive coordinator and stepping into that role, kind of a two-parter of having your D coordinator now be your head coach, and then secondly, what you think about the linebacker core having experience.
Okay, well, first and foremost, it's awesome, you know, for us to be able to start together. I don't think that it rarely happens, you know, and especially for us to grow as close as we have from day one, you know, being thrown in that fire, you know, with the trust of my coach over there. It's just been really great, you know, and throughout every year, you know, we've continued to grow closer together as brothers. So to be able to finish this senior year off with them it's a testament to our brotherhood, but it's a great feeling to have. You know, I wouldn't want to do it without them. What was your second question? I'm sorry.
About your defensive coordinator becoming your head coach.
Oh, that's even more awesome. You know, I think that's even more rare, and the mentality that put inside of us, which has made us tremendous football players, is the same mentality that's going across the whole team now. And I think that is very, very dangerous, you know, because that guy, he has put the feeling of winning into everybody he coaches, everybody he talks to, everybody he mentors. It's just a breath of fresh air, but at the same time, he always talks about two things, and you're defined by your toughness and your word. And if we play the way that the mentality that he preaches, then we're going to be fine.
Shaq, we'll get the microphone to your right, about the 5th row, middle of the way.
Ewan McCreath, Herb FM Sports Radio. Shaq, ever since you got to Miami, you were a starter. What has your experience taught you the most heading into this year?
Heading into this year, I think that every play counts. You know, freshman year, I didn't know much about the innings and outings of football, you know, but I knew I could play hard, you know. Before you had, you know, all the means to know about all the coverages, what the offense is trying to do to you, you knew how to play hard. So from that year, that's what I learned. You know, I'm going to play hard regardless. I'm going to give all my effort, you know. No matter how many plays I have to play, you know, 73 out of 76 North Carolina game my freshman year, I played every one at 100, you know, my 100%. So year in and year out, I just took that, and I think that was the most important lesson. The first year was effort. After that, it turned into, okay, well, I know I can play here now. I learned that my freshman year. Now it's about domination. It's about proving that, you know, I'm one of the top guys in you know, America, in the country right now. So year in and year out, that's what I've been working towards, just, you know, pure domination. You know, it's not supposed to be fair.
Might be the quote of the morning thus far. It's not supposed to be fair. Shaq, take us through the thought process when you were making your decision to return. What were the factors that ultimately decided that you'd come back for your senior year?
Well, talking with Coach Diaz and even Coach Rick at that time, it came down to what I honestly felt I was worth. You know, a lot of guys come out their junior year and it's becoming more of a fashion to do that, but I don't think they understand the long-term results of what, you know, what that does. You know, a lot of guys, 2 out of 3 juniors that come out don't get drafted. And then the one that does, who's to say that he goes in the first round, you know? So I didn't see the reason in leaving a year early and leaving so much on the table. You know, it's the fact that I get to graduate this year, the fact I get to do it again with my guys that I came in with, the fact that I have my, you know, once defensive coordinator, position coach, which is now my head coach, it's like almost the stars have aligned for me, and I think that's a tremendous blessing. So those things paid into it.
You've got one more question, and it'll come from the same gentleman to your right, 5th row.
Hey, Shaq, you know, last year you had 14 tackles for loss. Obviously, that is such a great thing to have in your arsenal, and it puts the offense at a disadvantage. What's the key for you to getting more tackles for loss this year?
I think the key is just doing everything I did last year to prepare to be able to get those 14 tackles for loss, but even better, being more in shape, being more intuitive, you know, and playing harder. You know, on our defense, you know, we had John Garvin, I believe he had 17 or 18 TFLs. We have a lot of guys that get TFLs. So we already understand that, you know, there's only so many opportunities just because you have dogs around you that play just as hard as you do. So that takes your competition to another level. And then when you have that, then, you know, then you become the #1 defense in the country. So,
Shaq, thank you very much. You can trade places with your head coach. Coach Diaz with us for about 15 minutes. And again, even though you've identified yourselves with our student athletes, please reintroduce yourself to the head coach, please. Our first question will come, Coach, to your right in the 1st row.
Coach Dan Tortora, wakeupcalldt.com. Just what you can say about not only your story, but your family's story. You're the first Cuban-American head coach at Miami, but your family has a very unique story of coming to America itself. So just what you can say about not only having that story and kind of share that with us a little bit, but how you got to where you are today making history with Miami.
Yeah, feel super blessed. You know, super blessed even just to stand here in this ballroom today as the head coach of the University of Miami. To be a head coach in the Atlantic Coast Conference. This starts my 13th year in some capacity in this league, more than any other league I've ever been in. My story is, it's the traditional Miami story, you know. My two families, one family that sort of was moving down from the northeast part of the country, and another family that was, you know, forced out of their homeland in Cuba. And my mom and dad met and had me and taught me, like, you know, Miami in a weird way is a little bit of the microcosm of the American dream. Because generally speaking, not many of us that are from there. And if you're from there, you're not probably second, third generation from Miami. So it is a place where you kind of have to go make your way. It's the old, you know, idea, you can be what you want to be, which again, we're all believers in the American dream. And I think Miami is a showcase for that. And I'll be very honest, I think the Miami Hurricanes are a showcase for that. That's really what the Miami Hurricanes did in the 80s. There's just not very many college football programs that crash the college football scene. This has been a sport that's for a long time been dominated by the blue bloods. And very rarely does the team just sort of sneak in, and Miami did. Miami snuck in. Why? Because of the greatest resource we have in our city, which is what? Which is our people, which is our talent. The talent in South Florida sort of crashed on the scene, and we're able to knock off the Nebraskas and the Oklahomas and the Notre Dames and the sort of the traditional powers in the 80s, and that put Miami on the map. And now, you know, bringing it full circle, for me to be now in charge to bring Miami back to that point, I'll be very honest, if you wrote it on a script, Hollywood would throw it out. It would be too unbelievable. So on one hand, I pinch myself every day, but on the other hand, I realize that there's a lot of work to be done because this is a place where it can happen. The script has been written in terms of how it happens, and my job is to really follow the script and make these guys understand the recipe for success and hold them to it.
Coach, to your left, second row.
Hi, Coach. Tom Shanahan from the Shanahan Report. It's kind of unusual to see a graduate transfer be one of the players brought here. Obviously, he must have jumped out and made a quick impression on you and the team. Talk about that.
Yeah, KJ did a great job up here today. KJ's here for a lot. KJ is here in Charlotte for the same reason why he's in Miami. He was obviously a very highly productive player at Buffalo. The film could show you that. But when we did our research on what type of guy, what type of human KJ was, a gym rat, you know, the first guy in the building, the last guy to leave. And what we were trying to do, what we are trying to do, and what we are doing at Miami is we're rebranding ourselves. We have to stop being known for having a team with a bunch of talented guys. Because sitting around and talking about how talented we are doesn't win us any games. We got to go back to being a bunch of hard-working guys. And this is not my opinion. This is how Miami won in the past. This is what all the greats that, to me, own this program, our former players, have told us repeatedly. How do you win at Miami? Is you win at Miami by recruiting our footprint and then outworking everybody else. Now, there's not a coach in America that's going to get up here and say our team's not trying to outwork everybody else. So it's got to be a conscious choice. So to bring a guy like KJ into our program, we were very young in the wide receiver room. We felt like we lacked leadership at that position a year ago, so we needed a guy that could come in. Gosh, KJ, what are you doing here? KJ texted me at 8:45 at night. Coach, can we get the lights on at the indoor facility? I want to catch balls out of the jugs. I'm like, KJ, we'll find a way to get the lights on, right? I mean, but that's what we needed. We needed a guy that could show our young players who do have ability how to become a big-time guy. And so it just made sense when we were trying to pick an offensive player to come represent us here today, that KJ would make a lot of sense. He did a great job. Now, if KJ came every year, we'd have to turn this into a 4-day event, right? Because he had, you know, some long answers. You know, we'd be like that other league. And I will say this too. I'm probably the first head coach to ever stand up here who's been to less of these than the defensive representative. This is Shaq's second. This is my first. So that's a pretty rare thing. So luckily I could lean on him for some veteran advice.
Coach, your next two questions will come to your right side in the first row.
How you doing, Coach? Hal Nunn from the News Journal and the Sports Blast. Two-part question. The first one is, you're outside the state now. You've been here before.
Right.
How do you see recruiting in the state of North Carolina? And the second part of that is, when you're doing your recruiting, does the subject of the ACC network come up?
Well, it ought to. I mean, let's start with that part first. The ACC network is going to be a game changer for our league, not just in terms of providing the access and the content to our fan base, but, you know, really just bringing us from a competitive level to, you know, to the other leagues. So I can't wait for it to get started. I can't wait to showcase. This is a league, in my mind, that doesn't get talked up enough. I mean, just walking down the hallways and seeing some of the great coaches that are in this league, some of the great players that are in this league, and people, it's just what it takes to go in and week out in this league with the level of competition. And I told you, it's my 13th year now, so I've seen it. I've seen it when I was at Florida State, and I've seen it when I was at NC State. So, you know, I know the power and I know the potential of the ACC, and the network is just what we needed to really showcase it. In terms of recruiting the state of North Carolina, you know, obviously I was at NC State for 6 years. You know, we built the #1 defense in the country. That was really primarily fueled by North Carolina recruits. We really, half North Carolina and half South Florida, to be honest, was kind of our recipe. But the defensive linemen in particular that come out of the state, you know, tend to really be disruptive type players. And we had, you know, Mario Williams, first pick overall, Manny Lawson is a first-round draft choice. And we've got a team, we got a guy on our team that when I saw him in 10th grade, I said, this guy is just like Manny Lawson, and was just like Manny in high school. And his name is Greg Rousseau. He'll be in a second year in our program, and if he can have the career that Manny have, I'll be a very happy guy. And I think he's well on his way.
Again, staying to the right there in the first row.
Coach, you referred to social media as quote unquote an avenue of fun. Just what you can say about what you do with social media, the positivity, and not just sharing things about football, but having some excitement with it, having some fun with it, and embracing it in a world where some people use it negatively and some people positively.
Right, you know, it's free access to our fan base, right? It's free access to recruits, and it is something where you get to set the message, right? And let's be very honest, the message at Miami was, we had a bad December at Miami. We really did, and we didn't finish our season off. We played very poorly in our bowl game. Recruiting was probably not going the way that we wanted it, and so, you know, what do you want to do as a leader? You know, what do we want to do as a staff? And we have to reset. You know, the one thing you can do now in this day and age is you can sort of determine the temperature in the room. You can really reset the weather, and the easiest way to do that is through social media. You know, the players know I'm a naturally positive person anyway. I'm a naturally upbeat person anyway, and I do like a good laugh from time to time. So we've had our share of good laughs on social media, but I say this over and over and over again. Our program can't be built on social media. You can't build a program because, you know, again, you know, there's a lot of people that try to win from January until July, right? But it's getting real here for really soon. And for us, it gets real a week sooner than it does for everybody else. I walk up and down these hallways, and I'm seeing all these coaches that are just like, oh, yeah, I just got back from vacation. You know, we're on. We report 1 week from today. We practice in 8 days. So it's here for the Miami Hurricanes. So as much fun as we've had on social media, and I think that's helped, you know, sort of alleviate some of the clouds that were maybe on top of our program, what's been happening on the inside is real. That's been what these guys have been doing with David Feely, our strength and conditioning coach, while no one's been watching, and they don't put hashtags for that. There's no hashtag for what's going on that field and in that weight room, but I promise you that'll have a lot more to do with our success than the fun we're having on Twitter. But we'll still have fun on Twitter.
Coach, still on the right side, about the 6th row, follow the aisle up and to the right.
Coach, Joey Knight with the Tampa Bay Times. You're the coach of your Game 1 opponent, who I think you know fairly well.
Right.
He said he was really sold on you when his teams played Middle Tennessee those couple of years. One of them was a pretty close game. Do you remember anything about those two matchups against Mississippi State?
I do. It was one matchup, in fact, because in '09 we played Mississippi State, and that was Dan's first year at State, and it was my 4th year at Middle. And I remember, as he tells the story, as I think we lost 24-10. They had Anthony Dixon. It's a big-time running back, and you know, we were the little spunky Blue Raiders, and you know, they got a bad draw. They had to come to Murfreesboro to come play us, but you could see the programs. We had played State the year before in Starkville in '08, and you could see the changes that Dan had made, and you could see a team that was much more competitive. But you know, I don't know. It's one of those days where you kind of, you know, lock up with somebody, and what happens happens, and you don't ever really think. You know, we did not work at Middle Tennessee hoping to audition for a bigger job one day. We really, you know, I love working for Rick Stockstill. He did a great job, still does a great job at Middle Tennessee. We were really enjoying our life in Murfreesboro, and when all of a sudden, when Dan called and had the opportunity to bring me to Mississippi State the first time, I think we found we had a lot in common. I think we found that we think about the game in very similar ways, and I think Mississippi State has won, in the whole history of Mississippi State, I think they've won 9 games, maybe 6 times, maybe 7. I could be wrong, it could be 7. And two of the 6 or 7 were the 2 years that we were together at State. So I think we worked together pretty well.
Coach, to your left here in the front row.
Coach Steve Reed from the Associated Press. As you take over as head coach, you talked about 8 days away. What do you view as the strengths of this football team, and what are the areas that you still have concerns in, and you got to figure out maybe as you go through the season here? Yeah,
well, certainly our strength. One, you saw right there. Obviously bringing back the oddity of having 3 starting linebackers who have started every game since their freshman year. So the ability to have that, those are the decision makers in the defense. Those are the guys that got to make all the calls. They've seen it all now in college football. I mean, they're not going to be tricked. So the level of preparation, they have the ability now to influence the rest of the team. They have the ability now to make the players around them better. So as good of a player as Shaq Quarterman is, he's going to be a great player this year because he's going to make the guys around him better. I think on the offensive side of the ball, we certainly do have weapons. We have depth at running back. With the Cameron Harris and DJ Dallas, we can get Lorenzo Lingard back going, Robert Burns back going. We think we got 4 guys that can really tote the rock. We've got some tight ends that we can really use as weapons with Brevin Jordan and Will Mallory and Michael Irvin. So we do feel like we have some weapons. Now, the natural concerns everyone's going to have for Miami, number one, everyone's going to want to talk about the quarterback position. I think the best recruit we signed this offseason was Dan Enos. I think the minute Dan Enos walked on campus, I think all of our quarterbacks improved. I get the opportunity to sit in his meetings every day, and Dan he's outstanding with the way that he mentors and tutors those guys. They have all improved. They all showed during spring practice that they can all be the quarterback for the University of Miami Hurricanes. So we felt like we went from January 1st and not having a quarterback on our campus that we could win with, to on April 20th, feeling like we had 3 quarterbacks on our campus that we could win with. What we felt like is that we had to go into the summer, let those guys be on their own when coaches aren't allowed to watch, and really find out who would take control of the football team. 2 of the guys want to be the quarterback at Miami. 1 of the guys has to be the quarterback at Miami. I don't know which guy that is yet. I'm going to find out here in the next 2 or 3 weeks. And whatever guy that is, he'll take the first snap against Florida in Orlando on the 24th. And then we have to, the other 2 positions we have to shore up is our offensive line. My suspicion is they'll play a lot better than they did a year ago, partially because of maturity. I think partially because of what we're going to ask them to do, and partially just because of confidence. I think all 3 of those things will have a dramatic impact on the way they played compared to where they played a year ago. And then our depth in the secondary. We've got some guys that can play in the secondary. But this is the fun part about being a college football coach. We went through the same thing a year or 2 ago. We lost, after the 16 season, we lost a couple of great safeties in Jenkins and Carter, and we had to move Sheldrick Redwine to safety, and no one knew he could do it. And who's this Jaquan Johnson character? And both those guys were probably the best duo of safeties in college football, in my opinion, the last couple of years. Michael Jackson came out. We lost Corn Elder to the Panthers. Michael Jackson came in, had a great season. So we feel like we've recruited good options in our secondary. It's time for those young guys to step up.
Miami, thanks a bunch. Good luck this year.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here.
Folks, a reminder to the media that voting for the ACC preseason order of finish, preseason player of the year, and preseason